Japan's Toshiba Corporation sold a 130-ton transformer to India, and a magical butterfly effect began to unfold. This transformer not only turned local residents travel over the next 3 years into a disaster, but also pushed Toshiba, the seller, to the brink of collapse. The power department in India's Madhya Pradesh waved its hand and decided to upgrade the region's dilapidated power grid. To bypass China, it splashed out 160 million rupees, equivalent to 2 million US dollars, and bought a long-coveted, so-called Japanese bloodline transformer from Toshiba at a price 3 times higher than the market rate. This 130-ton hunk of iron never imagined that after being shipped to India as heavy, oversized equipment, it would not be loaded onto a professional hydraulic modular trailer, but instead casually tied up by the Indians and thrown onto an ordinary flatbed truck like a pig. Although the Indians' operation seemed casual, it was actually the result of careful calculation. A 6-wheel truck has a load capacity of 30 tons, so adding 48 wheels behind it would make it 270 tons. Right? Double the load. Completely safe. So this flatbed truck, which looked like a centipede with its many axles, pulled the Japanese transformer onto a road of no return. No route survey, no report filed, no police escort. The Indian driver relied on his overflowing confidence, stepped on the gas, and headed straight for Uttar Pradesh. On the way, they encountered an old British colonial relic, the Satwa River Bridge, built by the British around 1865. It was originally meant for horse-drawn carriages, and was already a ripe 150 years old. A normal person would first check the bridge's load limit before deciding whether to cross. But as we already know, this driver was Indian, and his mental arithmetic was sharp as sharp. A 150-year-old bridge, a 130-ton transformer, 150 minus 130 equals 20. Not only is it not overweight, there's even a surplus. So he stepped on the gas without hesitation and charged forward. The result? Boom. The bridge deck instantly collapsed. The rear of the truck lifted into the air. The front smashed into a ditch. The centipede truck lost its balance, and with a loud dong, he crashed into the dry riverbed, the body bending at a 90-degree angle. Miraculously, the driver suffered only a minor spleen injury, but was badly shaken. Perhaps he thought that if 150 minus 130 could be wrong, something must be seriously wrong with the world. So he climbed out of the wreckage and ran away. The other 5 people in the truck also climbed out one after another, basically unharmed. But this was just the opening of the disaster. After the transformer fell, the Indians didn't hesitate for a second and called Toshiba directly to complain that there was a problem with the deal. The Japanese side was very nervous, afraid that the inside story of their high-priced sale would be exposed, and quickly asked what the problem was. The Indians replied, "The transformer collapsed our bridge. You have to compensate for the cost of repairs." After the first failed communication, the Indian-style rescue officially kicked off. You might think they would immediately rescue the fragile transformer. But no, the Indians worked hard for 4 hours a day, instead of a month, building a culvert bridge next to the collapsed one. The reason was simple. Even if they rescued the transformer, it would still need to be transported later. No bridge, no way. Once the bridge was built, they finally remembered to rescue the transformer. Out of protection for the equipment, the rescue team abandoned large cranes, and instead used their ancestral Jackson wooden planks, prying the iron block upright 1 centimeter at a time. They then brought in a truck to take over from the original flatbed and drag the victim away. But the truck lacked power and instantly turned into a shaker, dancing in place. The clever Indian rescuers decided 1 truck wasn't enough, so they brought in a second. The result? 2 shakers dancing in sync. Still, the team refused to change their plan. The poor transformer was soon joined by a 3rd truck. Thus came the famous scene of 3 shakers dancing together. Fortunately, brute force works miracles, and the transformer finally moved. But the story was far from over. The Indians suddenly realized that the bridge they spent a month building was completely useless, because the transformer needed to be sent back the same way for inspection. For those 30 days, the transformer lay in the ditch, exposed to wind and sun, no one caring about its fate. In the end, it had to go back the way it came. A complete waste of effort. You might think the story ends here. The newly built Indian culvert bridge was supposed to drain water during the rainy season, but the deck was built to loam and was quickly submerged by floods. Villagers on both sides were desperate to cross the river. The construction team tried frantically to block the water, but the floods were fierce, washing away the barriers again and again. To make matters worse, during repeated attempts to block the bridge and dig soil, the construction team accidentally dug up and killed a sacred tree worshipped by the villagers. This was the last straw. Facing the villagers' anger, the construction side was forced to stop work and first go plant trees to atone for their sins. By the time the sacred tree was replanted, the floods had long washed the culvert bridge without a trace. But the good news was, they no longer had to worry about it collapsing. Helpless, the construction team had to turn back and repair the British antique bridge. But the on-site engineering team was notorious for slacking off. A leaky boat could even achieve a self-sustaining cycle of draining and taking in water. 3 months had passed since the transformer was dragged away. The villagers were wrapped in the village, unable to move an inch, and complaints abounded. Under pressure, the government invited military engineers to step in. The military's efficiency was indeed immediate. They erected a steel truss bridge over the antique bridge in just 7 days. However, because the bridge was built too narrow, it couldn't actually carry traffic, effectively blocking themselves in again. No way out. They had to build yet another modern prefabricated beam main bridge. But as soon as the construction team set up a few piers, the rainy season arrived, and the project was forced to stop. After alternating cycles of drought and floods, the new bridge was finally completed, only to collapse. Again, the reason was a structural defect on the southern bank slope, so the construction team began expanding a fourth bridge nearby. Over these 3 years, India has been jumping back and forth in a loop of building bridges and watching them collapse, turning a single accident into an absurd farce. To this day, Toshiba, which the Indians demand pay for bridge repairs, resident compensation, equipment damage, and other expenses, has long since completed its privatization and delisting. Seeing no hope of recovering the money from Japan, the Indians have recently found a new direction in the action and the accident investigation, claiming to have discovered that the transformer Toshiba sold them was actually a Chinese product sold under a different brand. Thus, Indian media, citing the presence of Chinese components in the transformer, have launched a massive hype campaign, pressuring the authorities to demand compensation from China. China this time has truly been hit by a black pot falling from the sky.